Here's a brutal truth. If you're not a disciplined person, then it is impossible to respect yourself. Just a couple of years ago, I was hooked to fast food, video games, Netflix, to the point that I had no interest in doing anything productive. My grades were bad, my assignments were due. I had this overwhelming sense of anxiety all the time. No matter how many self-love videos I would watch, or affirmations I would say, deep down I knew I was not living up to my full potential. And this is why I couldn't really respect myself. But all that changed once I mastered the art of discipline. I'm now someone who spends most of his day working on his business, training hard at the gym, reading books, meditating, and now I have this overwhelming sense of satisfaction. After decades, I finally have a sense of self-respect. Not because of affirmations, but because I now know that I have conducted myself in a way that is worthy of being respected. In this video, I'm going to share with you 4 principles that allowed me to build this discipline. And if you actually follow these principles, you are going to notice quite an upgrade in your self-image. So let's get right into it. The quickest way to lose all self-respect is to live a life filled with instant pleasure. If you're the kind of man that wakes up mid-afternoon and jerks off to pixels on a screen, you have crumbs of food all over your bed because you had fast food last night and you were too lazy to clean it up, then guess what? No one is ever going to respect you, including yourself. When you give yourself instant pleasure, you become a zombie. A weak man who has no impulse control. His brain does not work like it's supposed to. You now become someone who's not able to contribute to his family or his community. You're basically a net negative to everything that you're part of. You know, when you do group projects, there's always this one guy who does absolutely nothing at all. Just a freeloader. That guy used to be me. The biggest reason why I did not contribute or have any interest in contributing was because my life was filled with instant pleasures and it had changed everything about me. So quitting instant pleasure should be the first thing you should be doing. Like sit down, get a page and a pencil, and now ask yourself this question. What are the things that I do that give me quick, unearned pleasure? Write down all these things on a list and begin to eliminate them. When you actually attempt at quitting these things, you are very quickly going to realize that damn, these things have quite a grip on me and they're very hard to get rid of. It's not as simple as just using raw willpower to quit them. You will actually find yourself going on a journey to get rid of these things. You will have to set in specific rules. You will have to make lifestyle changes. You might have to change your social company. You pretty much have to now live like a different man if you truly want to get rid of the hooks instant pleasure has on you. As soon as you eliminate all or most of the things on this list, you are going to feel a lot more motivated. You're not going to feel tied down or feel like procrastinating things. Secondly, there is going to be a massive void in your life. Think about it. If you're someone who previously spent 4 hours a day playing video games and now you've stopped playing video games cold turkey, what happens now during those 4 hours? This is when delayed gratification comes into the picture. I want you to think about every single productive activity that you would want to do. Reading, exercising, studying, meditation, cold showers. The one thing that is common between all these activities is that they require some effort on your part, at least to start that activity. The second thing that is common between them is that you feel good when you are done with them. You get a sense of achievement that, okay, I got over a certain amount of discomfort and I probably became more skilled than I previously was. This is what delayed gratification is all about. Putting in the effort first and receiving a healthy dose of pleasure later. So now I want you to create this second list. On this second list, I want you to write down all the productive things that you would like to do. Now your mission should be that, hey, I am going to get my happy hormones by doing the activities on this list. And I'm going to fill all that void in my life by doing these productive things. Just like quitting bad habits is a bit of a challenge, right? Starting new productive habits is also going to feel like a challenge. If you want to successfully do these habits in the long term, then you would be required to learn about routines, systems, sleep optimization, diet optimization. I highly recommend that you read this book called Atomic Habits. This book contains all the information that you need to construct long-lasting habits. And truth be told, without this book, I wouldn't be half as disciplined as I am. The way that you spend your time determines the type of man that you are. The single biggest difference between someone who's a total loser and a highly competent man is the way they utilize their time. The guy who's a total loser, he does not see his time as a valuable resource. It's like water, it's abundant. What happens when you think something has no value and is abundant? You become wasteful with it. So he has no hesitation doom scrolling for 2 hours straight or reading about conspiracy theories online, even when he's unemployed and living in his parents' friend's basement. But the guy who is truly competent thinks about time very differently. He thinks of time as the most valuable resource that he has, even more valuable than money. Because he knows if he spends his time the right way, he could 10x his income, or become a social magnate, or become an absolute warrior, or someone who's really intellectual. When you start viewing your time as extremely valuable, then all of a sudden you become very cautious of the way you spend it. You now actually start feeling guilty when you spend 4 hours just chilling with the boys. You now actually prefer spending those 4 hours reading something of substance, meditating and working out instead. Your understanding of the value of time needs to change. Like, sit down and tell yourself how precious your time is. This is the resource that you can use to unlock anything that you want. The next step is that you need some form of a structure to make the best use of this time. What I personally like doing is living my life by a routine. Just to highlight how powerful a routine really is, I want you to think of your routine as your blueprint to success. Tell yourself this: if I follow this piece of paper for long enough, then every dream that I have will come true. Imagine that you want to become a top tier software engineer. In your routine, you have marked that you want to learn about software engineering from 6 to 8 a.m. before you go to university or work. So this is 2 hours of work, 6 days a week. It's 12 hours a week of you learning software engineering, and this does not really seem all that much. But if you followed this exact routine for the next 1 year, you would have spent 500 plus hours on that skill of software engineering. And just imagine the upgrade that 500 plus hours would give you. And you know what the biggest advantage of having a routine is? When you do the same things at the same time every single day, then that thing begins to feel effortless. Like, sure, the first few times this dude was trying to learn software engineering and actually sit down and study, it might have been a bit challenging. But after 3 to 4 weeks of doing the same thing right at the same time, it becomes a part of who you are and almost feels automated. Now this person just wakes up and hops on his chair, starts studying. His studying has become as easy as brushing his teeth. Think about the exact opposite scenario. Imagine a guy wants to be a software engineer, but he does not really have a routine. He's just living life impulsively, like a leaf floating through the wind, constantly making decisions, thinking about whether he should study now or 2 hours from now. Or maybe he could just skip studying and just study extra tomorrow. I have been this guy, and the truth is, more often than not, you end up skipping the tasks. So his early hours that go towards software engineering would be really low. And the worst part is, studying now feels like it requires a lot of extra effort because he is doing it randomly at no fixed times, and because of this, that thing is not part of his identity. This is the biggest cheat code to being disciplined. Do the same thing at the same time every single day. Fall in love with the process and not the outcome. Bit of an embarrassing truth. This is my 3rd YouTube channel. I had 2 others in the past, but I ended up deleting them because back then my source of motivation was the outcome of having thousands and thousands of subscribers. But each time I would post a video, I would just get a couple of views and a couple of subs, and I came to the realization that I'm just so far away from my goals. And this is the biggest shortcoming of outcome-based thinking. You actually have to wait years and years before you get that desired outcome on one day. And the truth is, you are very likely going to quit way before that. But then this time around, I changed my philosophy quite a bit. I am now no longer in love with the outcome, but I am now instead in love with the process. Now my goal is that each day I need to become a better creator, come up with better scripts, deliver higher value, improve my editing, improve my thumbnails. And when you go with this mindset that you actually want to hone your skills and master the game, then every single day becomes rewarding. You no longer have to wait years before you can start feeling good. And when every single day feels like a reward, then you never feel like quitting. Maybe you're someone who's training to run a marathon. So instead of thinking about how you're going to end up on the podium or how you're going to achieve a certain timing, think about how you get to master the art of running each and every single day. I had a friend of mine, and he too was into content creation, and I remember that he was quite excited about posting this one particular video that he had been working on for like 20 plus hours. Turns out that the video performed horribly, and he was just so hurt by not getting that outcome even after putting in so much effort that he just decided to quit and stop making videos. And this is another danger of outcome-based thinking. If you do not get the outcome that you want, especially after putting in a lot of effort, then you're most likely going to quit. On the other hand, I too had spent around 15-20 hours on a video that barely got any views. But because I had fallen in love with the process, I knew that in the process of creating that video, I learned a lot. I became a better speaker, I became a better editor, and a better creator. So I had already received my reward, and I did not feel like my effort was wasted. This is perhaps a bit of a confession. Back when I was a teenager, I was not really the most honest person. I would frequently lie to just get out of trouble or to avoid doing work. Also, I would constantly look for the easy way out or shortcuts. I remember I would ask my elder sister to do my homework. And back then I thought by doing these things, I was actually getting ahead in life. I'm winning because hey, I did not feel the discomfort, nor did I have to put in any work, which was true in the short term. But in the long term, I was actually harming myself because I was forever seeking this comfort zone. This comfort zone had now become inescapable, almost to the point that if I found anything remotely challenging, I just would not do it. And this gave rise to so many different problems, including social anxiety. At one point, I'd become so socially anxious that I could not even sit in the cafeteria and eat my lunch. I was just paranoid and I would think that everyone is staring at me and just judging the way that I eat. And all these thoughts were just bullshit, by the way. None of this was true. So I would instead just go to some isolated corners in my university to just finish up lunch. That is when I started realizing that if I keep taking shortcuts in life and keep staying in my comfort zone, I would just become weak and pathetic. What I then started doing was that I would now voluntarily seek discomfort. So firstly, I started spending 30 minutes a day just studying, because in the past, this was the activity that I avoided like the plague. And to be honest, when I first started out, these 30 minutes were not fun. They were actually quite painful. But as time went on, I began to find comfort in that pain. I joined martial arts classes knowing that my mind and my body wanted to avoid this activity. Basically, each time my brain said, no, don't do this is too uncomfortable, I did it. Of course, I had to build up to it, level up the amount of discomfort step by step. But after a few months of doing this discomfort zone became my home. All that anxiety was gone and I was no longer looking for shortcuts in life. I stopped lying over things. I was now okay with dealing with consequences of telling the truth. What I want you to do is throughout the day, pay attention to that little bitch voice in your head telling you not to do certain activity, not to talk to certain people. And I want you to do exactly the thing that you're avoiding. Seek the discomfort out each day. So I'm sure that after watching this video, you're quite motivated. But the thing is that motivation is a limited resource and it is bound to run out in the long run. So make sure that you watch this video to truly learn about long-lasting discipline strategies.